Trusted the wrong friend. 5 true horror stories.
Have you ever trusted a friend and later wished you never met them? Because tonight, I'm telling you 5 true stories where people trusted the wrong friend, and it almost destroyed their lives. This happened during my senior year of high school. Back then, I had a loose group of friends. We weren't super close, and we didn't have group chats or planned hangouts. We mostly just sat together at lunch or talked before class. Sometimes, a few of us would hang out after school, but nothing serious. There was one guy in that group named Mark. He wasn't one of my close friends, but he used to sit with us at lunch and talk before school. He seemed chill, polite, and normal. I didn't really know much about him, but I never had a reason to distrust him. Then one semester, he slowly stopped showing up. I barely noticed. Life moved on. One night, completely out of nowhere, I got a Snapchat message from Mark asking if I wanted to hang out. It felt a little strange because we had never hung out alone before. But I had nothing to do, and I figured we could just play video games. So I gave him my address. He showed up, came into my room, and we played games for about 2 hours. Nothing felt off. He was relaxed, friendly, and normal. After that, he left, and I went to sleep. The next night, everything changed. Around 11 p.m., I was asleep in my upstairs bedroom when a loud noise woke me up. At first, I didn't understand what it was. Then I heard glass shatter. My heart instantly dropped. I heard footsteps downstairs. More than one person. My bedroom door was cracked open, and I could hear movement in the living room and kitchen. Someone was inside my house. I quietly grabbed my phone and dialed 911 while sitting on my bed. I whispered to the operator, terrified they would hear me. I shut my door and waited, listening to muffled voices and footsteps moving through my house. After several minutes, I heard my parents wake up. That's when the intruders suddenly rushed out. When we went downstairs, everything was wrecked. Furniture was knocked over. Cabinets were open. Drawers pulled out. Multiple things were stolen. A few days later, police tracked down the people who did it after they tried selling our stolen items. There were 3 of them, and one of them was Mark, the same guy who had been in my room playing video games the night before. Police believe he used that visit to memorize the layout and valuables. He wasn't there to hang out. He was scouting my house, and that was just the first time someone trusted the wrong friend. In the next story, a girl moves in with her college friend, and what that roommate does at night is far worse than theft. A few years after high school, I moved into an apartment with a girl named Elise. We had gone to college together, and the idea to live together was hers. Honestly, I didn't feel great about it. Back in college, she wasn't exactly a good friend. She always seemed selfish and dramatic. But I needed a roommate, and I told myself people change. The apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a living room. At first, things were okay, but that didn't last long. Within a couple of months, I realized Elise was a nightmare to live with. She was constantly late on rent. Twice, I had to cover her share just so we wouldn't get in trouble. And every time she promised to pay me back, she delayed. She never cleaned. Dirty dishes stayed in the sink. Trash piled up. And somehow, it always became my job to deal with it. One day, I forgot my laundry in the washer for about an hour. Instead of telling me, she took all my wet clothes and threw them onto the dirty floor. When I confronted her, things got worse. She started doing things on purpose just to annoy me. If I was cooking at night, she would suddenly turn off the lights. Once, when I stepped outside for less than a minute, she locked me out. Then she crossed a line. She called our landlord and accused me of smoking and using drugs inside the apartment. It was a lie. The landlord demanded to meet me. I told him to come inspect the place himself. He did, and found nothing. No smell, no evidence, nothing. He even said he could always tell when someone smoked in his properties. He believed me. But Elise denied everything and locked herself in her room. That's when her behavior turned truly disturbing. One night, I woke up to loud banging on my bedroom door. When I opened it, I saw Elise running back to her room and slamming the door shut. Another night, she snuck into my room while I was asleep and shoved me out of bed onto the floor. Then she ran back to her room and locked the door. That was it. The next day, I reported her and packed my things. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. Later that same day, the landlord called me. Elise had missed rent again. She was evicted, and somehow I ended up keeping the apartment for myself and paying reduced rent for the rest of the lease. I never saw her again, and I hope I never do. You'd think betrayal can't get worse than someone trying to force you out of your own home. But in the next story, a childhood friend turns a harmless sleepover into one of the most terrifying nights of someone's life. When I was about 12 years old, I had a neighbor named Josh. Our families had lived on the same street for years, and since there weren't many kids our age nearby, we naturally became friends. We played at the park, rode bikes, and spent most summers hanging out in each other's yards. But if I'm being honest, Josh was never a great friend. We didn't really have much in common, and he could be rude and annoying. Still, he was the closest kid my age on the block, so we stayed friends out of convenience. One summer, he invited me to sleep over at his house. It had been a long time since we'd done that, but since it was vacation, I agreed. I brought my sleeping bag and toothbrush and went over that evening. He told me we'd be sleeping in the basement. The basement was actually nice, soft carpet, a big TV, and a couple of couches. We spent hours playing video games. When it got late, his mom came downstairs and told us it was time for bed. Josh took the couch. I spread my sleeping bag on the floor. At first, he wouldn't stop making noise. He played videos loudly on his phone, made weird jokes, and kept talking when I was trying to sleep. Eventually, he suddenly stood up, grabbed his blanket, and said he was going to sleep upstairs in his room. He left me alone in the basement. I didn't complain. Honestly, I was glad he was gone. I moved my sleeping bag onto the couch and tried to sleep. That's when the fear set in. The basement was completely dark. No lights, no sounds, just shadows and the faint glow of moonlight from a small window. Every tiny noise made my heart jump. After a while, I drifted into a light sleep until I heard the front door open. I sat up immediately. Footsteps followed. Someone was walking inside the house. Then I heard slow steps coming down the stairs. My stomach twisted. I couldn't see the stairway from where I was lying, but I watched the corner where it connected to the basement. I was convinced someone had broken in. A shadow moved. Then a man's voice spoke from around the corner. It didn't sound like English. It sounded angry, loud, aggressive. I was frozen. The voice continued for several seconds, and then suddenly the lights snapped on. I jumped to my feet and saw Josh standing there laughing. It was a prank. The man's voice had been a video playing on his phone. I didn't laugh. I packed my things and walked home in the middle of the night. Josh didn't even apologize. He just stood there, amused by himself. I never stayed at his house again. And after that night, I barely spoke to him at all. That prank could have ended much worse. But the next story involves a so-called friend who lured someone into a dangerous trap, with two strangers waiting in the dark. I had a friend named Sam that I'd known since high school. We had shared classes, played sports together, and spent a lot of time in the same friend group. Back then, he was fun to be around. We played games, talked trash, and hung out like normal teenagers. But after graduation, Sam changed. He became the kind of guy who always needed something. Money, rides, food, favors. Every time we went out, he somehow forgot his wallet. If I picked up food, he never paid me back. If I drove, he never offered gas money. Still, I kept giving him chances. One night, Sam asked me to drive him to a city about 30 minutes away. He claimed his car had broken down and said he had a date waiting for him. I said no at first, but then he sent me some money and promised more later. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We had to turn around halfway because he forgot his wallet. That should have been my warning. When we finally reached the apartment complex where his date lived, I dropped him off in the parking lot. He didn't tell me where to wait or when he'd be back. My phone texts went unanswered, so I sat in the car waiting. About 40 minutes later, I heard someone sprint toward my vehicle. Before I could react, someone slammed into my back door and tried to open it. I thought I was being robbed. Then I realized it was Sam. He was sweating, gasping for air, and yelling at me to unlock the door. As soon as he got inside, he screamed, "Drive." I didn't ask questions. I floored it. As we pulled away, I saw two men running across the parking lot toward us. Sam pointed and said, "That's them." I took random turns through dark side streets and shut off my headlights for a moment. We hid in another apartment parking lot, surrounded by trees, sitting in total silence. A car drove past slowly. We didn't breathe. After several minutes, I drove us home on the highway, watching every vehicle behind us. That's when Sam finally told me the truth. His date had driven him to a quiet road where two men came out of the woods. He jumped out and ran. They chased him and then chased my car. He believed the girl had set him up, and I was the getaway driver. Sam never paid me the rest of the money, but honestly, I didn't care. I was just glad we got out alive. That night, Betrayal almost turned into an ambush. But the final story is the worst one yet. A college friend who stayed over for the night and vanished by morning with everything. During college, I met a girl named Jennifer in one of the campus buildings where I studied almost every day. I used to sit in the same quiet corner, reviewing notes after class. One afternoon, she walked up to me and asked if I was in her biology class. I wasn't, but we ended up talking anyway. After that, we kept seeing each other in that same spot. Soon, we were studying together regularly. She seemed friendly, normal. We added each other on Snapchat and talked about school and random stuff. Nothing about her felt dangerous. At the time, I lived alone in a tiny apartment near campus. One night, Jennifer messaged me saying her roommates were driving her crazy and asked if she could stay over. I felt bad for her. I told her she could sleep on my couch. She came over that night, complained about her roommates for a while, and then I went to my bedroom to sleep. Nothing felt strange. No warning signs. No bad vibes. But when I woke up the next morning, something was wrong. My phone wasn't on my nightstand. At first, I thought I had knocked it onto the floor. Then I noticed the living room was empty. Jennifer was gone. So was my laptop, my wallet, my jewelry. Then I checked for my keys. Gone. She had robbed me while I slept. I stood there in shock, trying to process what had just happened. I had no phone, no money, and no way to contact anyone. I walked to campus and called the police from there. I told them I knew who did it, or at least, I thought I did. The school tried to look her up using the name she gave me. There was no student by that name. Not one. Which meant one thing. Jennifer wasn't even her real name. When I finally got a new phone and logged into Snapchat, I saw that she had blocked me. That didn't surprise me. It took time, but police eventually found her. She lived nearby and had done this to other people too. She wasn't a student at the university at all. I got most of my stuff back. Not everything. But what stuck with me wasn't the stolen things. It was how easily I trusted her. I gave her a place to sleep. She used it as an opportunity to destroy my sense of safety. 5 stories. 5 people who trusted the wrong friend. And every single one of them learned the same lesson the hard way. The people closest to you can be the most dangerous. So next time someone asks to come over, or to stay the night, or for a favor, ask yourself one thing first. Backhand index pointing right, do I really know them?